Hey, I just lost like almost an hour to understand how one piece of code works. This piece of code was just a normal domain object, and the domain object was sent to another microservice using events, but that's a detail here. This domain object was called contract, and the developer who implemented this realization just called contract.toJSON, which resulted in a JSON and it was sent to another microservice. My goal was to extend what we sent as part of the JSON. So I kind of imagine that we have somewhere in the code we have an explicit like JSON serializer or whatever like library could be used for the serialization. And to my surprise, there wasn't anything like that. But the domain object was actually, it wasn't like a clean, plain old Ruby object. It was touched by some frameworks or libraries. One library was Virtus. So I thought, okay, maybe it's part of Virtus that they provide to JSON implementation. But when I grabbed their repo, it wasn't there, so it's not their part. Then I looked at, we also have active model validations included, which is Rails. Yes, it's part of Rails, and but I couldn't see like how active model brings it to JSON implementation neither. So the mystery remained, and only my friend from Arkansas, Kuba, helped him by saying, if it's part of Rails, then you have active support. And active support basically has this object extension. So all objects get this toJSON implementation, which is defined by active support. The thing that trolled me was that there is not, in the Ruby itself, in the object class, you also have the toJSON implementation, which brings you some JSON capabilities, but for custom classes it doesn't really do much. It just prints you the class name signature. It doesn't really print the fields or attributes or anything like that. Where here clearly I had all the fields being listed. So altogether a nice trolling debugging session. What's magical here? The first part that is magical is actually not the one that I was bit by, but the fact that, for example, if you require the JSON library, the standard library, then you will have the toJSON implementation automatically in all objects. And this led me to thinking that maybe that's not what is expected by many programmers, including me, but maybe it's my background, knowing other languages, which it wouldn't be possible or wouldn't be recommended. In Ruby, it's quite common that just by requiring a library, just by the simple fact that we require a library, we have already some new methods appeared in existing classes. So those classes are reopening the libraries, they are reopening some existing classes like objects. So now everyone is influenced by this, and that was scary. And it wouldn't be like so surprising if it was only about Rails or active support, which does exactly the same. But the fact that in the Ruby standard library we have such behavior was a bit surprising to me and kind of sad. So yeah, it's kind of like my excuse to blame someone else by me wasting some time. In the end, I understand how it works, but I think I would prefer less magic in my code base. So from a developer perspective, what can we do? We can't really change what's in Ruby standard library, we can't really change what's in Rails active support, but we can control what we call, we can control what we use, which means we shouldn't call such methods. Like if you want toJSON implementation, be explicit. Just write the implementation, maybe introduce the hash, which exposes all the fields that you need with their values. Also, the toJSON call was actually somewhere outside of the Rails ecosystem. In our projects, we often use the technique of escaping Rails, like we use long rails for controllers basically, and sometimes for active record for persistence, like somewhere below. But this code was called somewhere in the service object, And in the service objects, I kind of assume that we are outside of Rails. So yes, we are still influenced by active support, which changes our methods and objects, but it doesn't mean we have to use those methods, right? So it doesn't mean we have to use the toJSON method, which is introduced by active support. We should rely on our own stuff, which also means that maybe it's a good idea. I haven't really done it that often, but now I'm considering doing it more often, to run the service objects tests outside of Rails. Like, don't try to run them without the Rails environment at all, so that you can see if you rely on magical stuff like active support. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't know. If you have any better ideas for this kind of situation, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our Arkansas channel. We'll try to post more videos now. Thanks, goodbye.